its spectacular landscapes, New Zealand is a pristine paradise, ranked the freest country on Earth. But this South Pacific nation has the second highest imprisonment rate in the Western world.
It's certainly not something that this country should be proud about. Sure, it's by their actions they've been incarcerated. The system that we have now does not get to the heart of the problem. It's hell-bent on punishment.
A tough stance on law and order has seen the jail population double in just 2 decades. New Zealand's government concedes prisons are a fiscal failure.
The corrections budget is 1.7 billion, so we spend more on our correction system than we do on our early childhood education. That's the wrong way round.
The moral costs are even greater. 1 in 2 inmates are Indigenous Maori.
I don't know of any Māori that doesn't know someone who's got a criminal record. You know, there's a very small, narrow system that fails us repeatedly.
I'm Drew Ambrose. On this week's edition of 101 East, we investigate why so many New Zealanders are behind bars.
Before battle, Maori warriors would perform the haka to challenge their enemy. In the prison, this war dance is a sign of respect. Today, New Zealand's Indigenous people are losing a war within. They're just 15% of the population, but are overrepresented in all sectors of the criminal justice system. By law, we can't show the faces of inmates, but body tattoos reveal gang affiliations that drive young Maori to a life of violence. For more answers, I go outside the prison.
Just Maori Country Chapter.
At 13, Harua Jerry joined New Zealand's biggest and most notorious gang, the Mongrel Mob.
Why are there so many Maori that end up in prison?
That warrior gene in ourselves, you know, we come from a race of fighting ancestry, yeah, and it seems to be a fear. If that was your talent, you usually took that path where you used your hands to get what you wanted. And if you were a violent person, you know, the world was your oyster. And it's still the choice today. People of my like and membership, you know, in the games, well, if we can spot that, they'll usually take that young person on board and enhance those negative aspects.
The gangs formed in the 60s when Maori boys like him moved to cities but struggled to find work. Without their community, gangs became their new families. He's showing me his local chapter, one of dozens around the country that use patches and a hierarchy modelled on bikie gangs.
This is my corner. This is my old, this is my patch that I wore for 30 odd years.
Also on these walls are Nazi swastikas, one of the gang symbols.
Why?
To create that animosity, I suppose, and that horror. Well, you know, it's all part of our power to be isolated, independent, exclusive.
Hura rose through the ranks to become president of his chapter and was jailed many times during turf wars with the gang's arch-rival, Black Power. The Mongrel Mob built their notoriety from violent crime, drug trafficking and gang rape. Horror claims he's done everything but kill.
Not to say that I didn't try. It goes both ways. I've been shot, stabbed. You know, I've shot others, stabbed others. Chopped in the head with an axe. You know, it's all part of the old lifestyle and you know, surviving.
Do you regret some of the life choices that you made?
I wouldn't have it any other way, really. It's, like I said, it's made me who I am right to this point in time.
Had a spare time with a bit of wood, eh?
Instead of the mongrel mob, today, young Maori join new American-style street gangs like this one, Flawless Bloodlines.
We want to roll by ourselves. We'll stand on our own.
Beyond the bravado, they're still tied to the old gangs through family, who can teach them the tricks of the trade. In Taupo, a tourist town 3 hours outside Auckland, we saw how their brutality can lead to bloodshed.
Do you know, is there a gang presence in this area?
I can't speculate at this stage as to whether or not...
A teenage mongrel mob member was stabbed to death the night before, amid rising gang tensions. Without other options, young lives are often cut short.
From 6 to 11, that's the cusp of where you've got to be able to capture those young and provide them other options. If you don't do that there at that age group, you know, by 11, they're committing you know, a serious crime. It's come right down to that age, you know, quite active in the criminal world.
Sirius Anderson dreams of becoming a president of the mongrel mob. All his family members are in the gang. The 10-year-old has witnessed violence all his life. He said he felt powerless when his father was attacked by Black Power.
We left, we walked out of a driveway and then a whole carload of just came up to my dad. And then a white car of mongrel mobs came up. And then another load of came up and then another load of mongrel mobs. And my big brother was in there and he was holding this huge ass wooden thing. He couldn't even lift it. He had to drag it on the ground and my dad kneed this fella in the guts and then two of the niggas ran away. He went back into the jail.
Sirius lives in government housing with his unemployed mother. His father and older brothers are all in prison. Before one recent visit, Sirius hadn't seen his dad in years.
Do you remember the last time you saw him? What he kind of said to you?
I love you. It's a house.
The odds are against him. Children with a parent in jail are 7 times more likely to end up there too.
Do you think you'll end up in jail?
Yeah.
Why do you think you'll end up in jail?
Because I might get in a fight with the niggas and I might kill them.
What kinds of crimes do you think you're capable of?
Like burning down houses and it. Oh, I've already did that before.
Have you burnt down a house?
Yeah, in a kindergarten.
How old were you when you were committing these crimes?
8. Yeah, about 8.
Sirius says he's also attacked older children and been taken in by the police for late night offences. What Sirius and his younger brother really want is time with their dad, but they remember their father's temper.
My dad had the chair up against my mum's throat and then when they broke it, my sister broke it up. Then the police came over and arrested my dad.
So you were there?
Yeah.
How did you feel?
Sad.
Sad?
Yeah.
Scared?
Not just sad.
So why did you stay up till 4?
1 in 5 children live below New Zealand's poverty line like Sirius. These poor neighbourhoods have some of the worst youth crime in the country. He says he wouldn't roam the streets late at night or misbehave if his dad was at home. When he's not around, it's hard to get money, is it?
Yeah.
How hard is it when you don't have money, when mum doesn't have money?
Then we have nothing to eat.
Local council member Henare O'Keefe runs volunteer projects down the road. He has been a foster parent to more than 200 kids.
We've got babies raising babies in some instances. It's the lack of quality parenting. And the Maori populace has one-parent families. You know, I've always said that this country's littered with fathers, but now daddies, that's another thing.
Henare works with troubled youth, teaching them horticulture and boxing. He visits prisons to guide young Maori, but admits the grip of gangs are often too strong.
I think they're smart. They make a living out of the angst and hurt of other people. I truly believe that we'll never fully eliminate it. We have to manage it as best we can.
Mama is a grandmother with 2 sons and 2 granddaughters in prison. Like many Maori elders, she's left to raise 2 other grandchildren on her own.
It's a power play. I don't believe that the gangs look after our young men or show them a future that is positive. It's all downhill eventually.
When your 2 sons joined or were affiliated with the Black Power gang, what changes did you see within them as a mother?
A lot of dishonesty. I saw a lot of devious moves around my sons. If I asked them straight questions, I never got a straight answer.
Did you feel like you could control them in any way?
Not when they reached their teenage years, definitely not. I couldn't. I was at a loss. I don't really know where.
She says going to jail has become normal within her family and wider Maori society.
I think if you tell the truth, children shouldn't really see it as a bad thing. It's just life. When I'm questioned about where is somebody, I tell them the truth. And if that's a sad thing, fine. It's just the truth. I don't know if we can talk about pain because it's more than that. It's a sadness that becomes a cloak.
Such dysfunction jars with the idyllic image of New Zealand. Which tops global rankings on quality of life every year.
If you compare the New Zealand rate of imprisonment, it compares with Eastern European and Western African nations that have a much more punitive and totalitarian regime.
Kim Workman has been a senior official within the police and correction system. He says even though crime keeps dropping, New Zealand's jail population remains the same, with sentences too harsh and too long to fit the crime.
The difficulty with them is that they didn't reduce crime. I mean, the arguments that were put was that we're going to hold people accountable for their offending, and the way to do that is to increase the the length of imprisonment and the harshness of the sentence. Well, all the research that we know of shows clearly that that's not a good thing to do, because it increases the likelihood that those people will re-offend when they leave prison.
Such a tough approach to law and order has seen both sides of politics win elections in New Zealand. Surprisingly, the government openly admits the system is costly and ineffective.
It is very expensive. $94,000 is the average we spend on a prisoner. There really is a tension between punishment and actually making people's life better. And I just don't think we've actually done the second part well. So yep, we've punished people by sending them to prison, but we expect them to see the error of their ways and come out as reformed people. Well, they're not going to do that. We're seeing a lot of criminals recirculating through our prisons. When you talk to some of the prison officers, they are seeing people 2, 3 and 4 times.
To break that cycle, the government is introducing more employment, education and addiction services inside jails, like this one that we were allowed to film. But at the same time, they're building more prisons.
I hope that's the last big prison that this country has to build. If we have to build more prisons, it means actually we have failed.
Special Maori Wards are trying to help Indigenous New Zealanders stay out of prison.
Nice to meet you.
We were granted access to one in a regional jail. To restore a sense of identity, inmates learn their language, culture, and must live together like a family.
The people you saw are actually from opposing gangs. These are people who have done crimes, some potentially to each other. We have respected what the native people of New Zealand, the Maori, do and have come from, and we support that and use that to help us provide a better opportunity for the men to keep themselves out of jail.
I'm in a relationship at the moment, but it's not a very healthy relationship.
Does she come in here at all
No.
to visit?
Rehabilitation often hinges on family involvement. But many of the prisoners I spoke to had issues with domestic violence. Half of the inmates in these units have no contact with their relatives and can't cut their gang allegiances.
Unfortunately, New Zealand does have a third generation of gang membership problem. When we're trying to connect people back, they identify more with their gang than they do with their family. So in units like this, we focus on the family. And it's about that reconnecting. Your family will support you through thick and thin.
To ease the transition, prisons have recently built houses outside the wire for Maori inmates near the end of their sentence. Prisoners can learn farming and their families can visit more often.
As you see behind you, it's not very often you give a prisoner a chainsaw, and that's what we can do here. There's nothing like this across the globe. There are ideas where you have hostels and things post-sentence, but this is during your sentence.
So in terms of from a Maori worldview...
But some Maori leaders familiar with the projects are critical of their impact.
I have my doubts. If you took a look at the number of our populace that have been incarcerated, you'd have to suggest that the Māori Focus Unit is not working. I've always been of the opinion that a Māori concept cannot work within a European infrastructure.
Former inmate Cookie is living proof. He says the Māori unit didn't prepare him for life on the outside.
You can sort of like brainwash yourself in there, but that's got nothing to do with the world out here. It does nothing with signing a paper going, oh, how do I fill out this form for my bank account? Or what's an email? I mean, it's all right to teach someone the words of a song and the actions of the song, but how long does that last? Just till the song's finished. Then what?
With a life defined by violence, Cookie has been in and out of prison for 30 years. His problems began in childhood. He says he was severely bashed in foster homes.
How bad did it get?
Oh, quite serious, like full-on stuff like getting chain put around your neck, padlocked to a tree, locked to the tree and stripped naked and kicked in with steel caps.
He eventually turned the tables, resorting to violence himself, beating up rivals as a mongrel mob hitman.
You get this bloodlust, you just want to make sure they're bleeding hard, and you learn that doing violence makes you feel powerful too. It sort of makes people listen,
After a string of domestic violence charges, Cookie lost his state housing and custody of his daughter. He's now homeless in Auckland.
You just look around and things have changed a lot, and you go, what am I going to do now? You sort of feel lost. Or sometimes I didn't even want to be seen by people. I didn't feel like, and I still get it now. Just sort of go, oh man, what am I doing here?
What's stopping you from reoffending now?
What's stopping me from reoffending now?
What's stopping you from ending up in prison?
I don't know, maybe just maturity, age. It's not much, I could reoffend as soon as we leave from here.
He says there's only one way to stop young criminals following his path.
I think it needs some people that have already been through that system, teach these young fellas not to do what we did. And the only way we can get a good message to our people is coming from us that have been there and done it.
Are you that same person, or are you going to move on?
Shane White is one of those men. On probation, he runs cultural workshops and rehab services for former inmates. A recovering meth addict, Shane helps troubled boys at a sacred Maori community centre called a marae.
I don't have any need to go and save people, but likewise, I feel I have a duty to do what was done to me, and the marae took me as I was. A 17-year-old, I killed somebody, I went to jail, I'd done a life sentence in New Zealand terms, which then was 10 years. I came out and they took me as a person, right there and then. And it wasn't forgotten what I did, but it was put to the side. You were 17, didn't think, just reacted, and I will take you at that point.
Shane's programs connect former inmates with their Maori roots, giving them a sense of community and strength. He says many have since stayed out of trouble.
The starting point is we're not focused on them not reoffending, and instead our efforts and energies goes towards creating a place where they can be themselves. So many of us were brown people born in the city, like myself, that the rest of the world saw as a Maori, but we're just a very disconnected, poor person living in the ghettos in a way. How to get back there, where a lot of us didn't have that connection to start with.
Yeah, so let's see what we can do to change that behaviour, and we'll have a talk about that.
Yep.
We'll do some planning.
Shane says too much money is given to prisons and not enough to community projects.
I feel a lot of times corrections set people up and stuff, but really they're just interested in control. What I'm seeing here is just a whole lot of Maoris getting pushed on us without a sense of support and resource, and it's actually almost in a way trying to undermine what we do by overloading us with all the too hard baskets. That's not actually helpful.
Wherever you go.
By 2017, the government wants a 25% reduction in reoffending. To achieve it, Maori leaders say more support is needed for programs that address widespread dysfunction in troubled communities.
Won't be long, everybody. Another 20 minutes, we'll have the sausages all cooked. And I want you to tell me, when you come up, what have you done? Have you done anything nice for somebody today?
Hanare O'Keefe's mobile barbecue is up and running at a park in a poor suburb in his district, offering free food and advice to those who need it. He says it not only works, but is far cheaper than the $94,000 it costs to lock up one prisoner for a year.
Who would have thought something as simple as a sausage with tomato sauce and a piece of bread could make inroads into people's lives? All of these initiatives, like out there with the barbecue today, it's a bridge. It's like the barbecue is a bridge that they will walk across from their heart to mine. By investing in the mobile barbecues, by investing in the maraes, in the community. It's an investment, it's not a liability, it's an opportunity. The problem with government, they need to let go of the controls. Give us a go.
New Zealand's push for punishment has led to more prisoners in jail than ever before. The government's approach is changing, but incarceration still carries a high financial and social cost. In this progressive country, the Maori community say more programs are needed to address the chronic despair that condemn many of their people to a life locked up.